Joining us right here in studio is Zeenath Ayoob. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you doing today?
Alhamdulillah, it's such a pleasure to be here today to discuss childhood cancer.
First and foremost, I just would like to thank you for coming on and being so willing to, of course, share your story with us. But just to get, to start and get straight into it for this particular afternoon, can you take us back to, of course, the moment when you first discovered your child's, illness, and how did you feel, and what was going through your mind?
Okay, so when I first learned of Lamiza's illness, it felt like the world had stopped. Hearing the diagnosis was incredibly difficult. I mean, to hear that your child has acute myeloid leukemia. There's two types. There's the normal ALL and the AML. The AML is the more aggressive type of cancer, and that's the one she had. And being a 2-year-old, it was quite hectic. But immediately I turned to Allah for strength. My mind was filled with questions. Why us? Why her? I mean, she was such a little baby. But I also know that this was a test from Allah. As life is full of trials, I reminded myself that Allah does not burden a soul with more than it can bear. In that moment, I made dua for strength and patience, knowing that whatever happens in this path is of His greatest plans. So we went to Parkland's hospital and they diagnosed her, and it was a very difficult journey. And to know that your child is going to be administered with chemo, it was quite a shock to me.
I can only imagine. But, what was some of the early, signs or symptoms that led you to, of course, seek medical attention for your child? And were there any moments of doubt or, of course, uncertainty with anything?
Okay, Lamiz began to feel more tired than usual. She had bruises that were unexplained. Later, we found out that it was bleeding under the skin. At first, I thought it was just normal childhood exhaustion, but something in my heart pushed me to seek medical attention. She kept getting fevers non-stop. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor, 3 doctors actually, said she has a flu, and they diagnosed her with the flu, and she was given antibiotics. And the fever never went away. So eventually we went to hospital and they did a blood test, and they found out that her platelets were 8. So immediately they were all in awe, because thinking that, there's something wrong, and they had to do further investigation. So I knew I had to leave it in Allah's hands from there.
Absolutely. But, how did you, I think that you're such a warrior and you're so strong. How did you and your family cope with, of course, the diagnosis? And what support system did you, of course, lean on during that difficult time?
Okay, so coping with the diagnosis was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I found solace in Salah and in my faith, my family and friends, the community. I had such amazing support from the community as well. They used to come to the hospital and bring toys for her, bring nappies. I mean, she was so loved. So that really helped me. But it was my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that truly helped me through. I kept reminding myself of the verse, verily with hardship there's ease. And, it kept me going. It gave me hope that no matter how difficult things were, there was a purpose behind it, and ease would eventually come.
Absolutely. But, and all this is obviously, it had been such a tough journey going through it. But can you share with us some of the most challenging moments you faced, of course, as a parent of a child with cancer? And how did you find strength and resilience?
The most challenging moments was watching Lamiz suffer and not being able to take her pain away. She had to go on morphine, and morphine was the only thing that helped her. As a mother, you feel helpless, but I found strength in Allah, knowing that He was with us and His plan. Lamiz's courage amazed me. For a 2-year-old, if you had to go and visit a hospital, I know Aggie very well, and I respect her a lot. When you go and visit those children in that hospital, you'll notice there's they have this uniqueness about them. They have the strength that's above anything else. being children, they know how to combat anything. They know they have to be in the hospital, and they know they have to take their medication. They know how they have to get their pressure checked. They know they have to get their transfusions, which includes chemo and platelets and blood transfusions, and it's ongoing. So yeah, but it's admirable, their strength, and you want them to survive, but you don't know what Allah has in store for them. Yeah.
We plan, but Allah is the best of planners indeed. So how has your child's cancer journey impacted your perspective on life, and what lessons have you learned, of course, along the way?
Okay, our bond grew stronger during this journey, and I saw how much faith Lamise had despite her young age. It was difficult. I had 2 other kids that were separated from me. My husband was staying somewhere else. I lived in the hospital, so it was a very challenging time in our lives. It was a 9-month journey of constant medication, X-rays, lumbar punctures, and transfusions continuously. So it was a very difficult time in our lives. And through all of this, going through that, you have to be strong. You have to be strong, and you have to have faith. You have to think positive. As much as Lamise passed away 9 months after a diagnosis, it was very difficult, but there was never a moment where I thought, I never ever gave up on her. So yeah, that kept me going. And the fact that I lost my child, and I can be a support to other parents that have lost children and that have cancer, childhood cancer, that's my purpose in life.
Indeed. But what message would you like to share with, of course, our listeners who may be going through, of course, a similar experience, or, of course, know someone who is?
To anyone going through a similar test, I would say turn to Allah in every moment. This dunya is full of trials, but it is through these trials that we come closer to our Creator. Have patience, make dua, and trust in Allah's plan, even when it's difficult to understand. Remember, so verily with hardship there is relief. Allah never leaves you alone in hardships, and He will give you the strength when you ask for it. You are not alone, and every tear, every prayer is seen and heard by Him.
Absolutely. Well, Zeenath, thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your story. It's extremely inspiring to see you always smiling, and you would never think that you would had gone through something like this. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant the and Jannah, and make things easy for you as well as for your family.
Jazakallah so much. It was definitely a pleasure to be here.
Inshallah, hoping that you can come through and join us perhaps in the near future, and we could discuss about something else as well.
Inshallah.
Ameen.